Now, the WMAL Fisher House Radiothon continues. Please support our wounded warriors and their families by calling in your contribution now. 888-294-8560. That's 888-294-8560.
WMAL. 6:06 now on O'Connor and Company, and it is the WMAL Fisher House Radiothon, as you just heard. 888-294-8560. Every dollar donated is doubled by Jeffrey and Janice from Mount Airy. They're WMAL listeners. They're part of our family, and they generously put up this match, and we are overjoyed by it. Unfinished business here. Stephen from Berryville. So let me get this clear here. Stephen has made a $100 donation every year for the last 12 years. So that's $1,200 now over the last 12 years. That's terrific. Huge. And by the way, I'm in my 12th year. No, I've just finished my 12-year anniversary here at WMAL. So, Stephen, I feel like we're partners in all of this. So I appreciate, Stephen, the support for Fisher House Foundation, and that is phenomenal. Keep those contributions coming, please. Also, later this morning, not only are we going to have more conversations with families, spouses, children, parents that have been blessed by Fisher House and your donations, but also at 7:05, Kurt Schlichter on the Pete Hegseth nomination, 7:35, Steve Moore on the Musk-Ramaswamy DOGE campaign, and then at 8:35, Congressman Chip Roy as well on that same issue. It's Larry O'Connor. That's Patrice Onwuka.
And it's a Friday.
It is. It's got Friday written all over it. The full court press on Pete Hegseth continues, and there's much to say about what's going on this. Frankly, I still don't quite understand. Donald Trump wins this election against all odds, against unprecedented opposition.
Absolutely.
Some within his own party, but also just, the convictions, the assassin's bullet, the sliming of him, the, labeling of him, about all of that. And he wins the popular vote, which, of course, is not a real thing, but the media thinks it matters. Democrats think it matters. But so he wins that. He wins the Electoral College vote. He won every single battleground state.
Yes.
He didn't have to win all of them, but he did. A clean
swept
sweep.
The board.
Right? And he expanded the Republicans' base in a way that I haven't seen.
His coattails were massive.
100%. And helped the Senate go from a 49-seat minority for Republicans to a 53-seat majority. The reason we're calling Senator Thune from South Dakota, the reason we're referring to him as the incoming majority leader is because of Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we'd be calling him the minority leader, and he'd be, under the heel of Chuck Schumer. But he's not. He's got great power, great influence. Why have we not heard from him about any of these Senate nominations? It seems to me that every senator's position, the default position should be whoever President Trump picks for his cabinet is a yes. I'll vote yes on them unless I hear something specific otherwise between now and the vote, right? But the default position right now for a lot of these Republicans is, well, we'll wait and see. Let's see if Pete Hegseth impresses me. Let's see if he kisses my behind properly.
Well, actually, when his name was first floated, a lot of the initial responses was, oh, okay, yeah, I'm on board. He's going to be a disruptor. But since the allegations, and by the way, they are allegations from many unnamed sources. So please, when you hear some talking head talking about he's an alcoholic, disregard everything that person says, because that is slanderous unless they know for certain.
Exactly. All these allegations, every time they say, well, these allegations are serious, I would follow up and say, what specific allegations? And when you tell me the allegation, please tell me who said that about him.
Who said it, when, where?
Who said this?
Did they see it, or did they hear about it?
They can't tell us. And I want to tell you something. From Senator Joni Ernst to Senator Thune to Senator Lindsey Graham, of all people, if you really want to spike people's careers based on anonymous rumors printed by the NBC news outlet, you can kiss your career goodbye, because you're next, my friends. All right, that said, honestly, and again, I don't know anything. I've never met Pete Hegseth. I don't know anything about him. I'm just talking about the process here. Seems to me Republican senators' default position should be, President Trump can pick the cabinet that he wants. Unless I hear concrete evidence in the hearings, it's a yes from me. All right, so the latest attacks on Pete Hegseth now, as you just mentioned, is that apparently he drinks alcohol on the job when he's doing Fox News.
So they want to open that door.
Right. Well, here's Dana Bett.
And we just have to sort of put some meat on the bone here, which is allegations keep coming out of various forms. One of them was at the Washington Post yesterday, which reported at Fox News, Hegseth had a reputation as a heavy drinker. That's according to 6 former Fox News employees who worked directly with Hegseth and saw him drinking on the job or visibly drunk at work events, and who spoke on the condition of anonymity out of fear of retaliation.
That's Dana Bash's way of putting meat on the bone. Boy, that's some thin meat. That's some processed meat. I don't know about you, but whenever I go to eat meat, I don't want it to be anonymous meat. I want to know exactly what animal I'm eating.
By the way, I can think of plenty of segments on television where hosts are wine tasting or trying a bit of alcohol. They're promoting something, eggnog. Listen, I'm not making excuses, but I'm just saying, local news, they're getting
Patrice,
turned up on the local news.
Forget about local news. No,
spare me with
Patrice, have you ever watched CNN's New Year's Eve coverage?
Oh, with Don Lemon
and Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen getting trashed on the air.
On live on air. So they want to really, Dana Bash wants to open that door?
Yeah, well, and so does her colleague, John Berman.
Development as Pete Hegseth fights to hold on to his nomination for Defense Secretary. He arrived on Capitol Hill just a short time ago. As new reporting from the Washington Post cites 6 former Fox News employees who say they witnessed Hegseth drinking at questionable moments. They say Hegseth, quote,
questionable moments. Do you know what the questionable moment was? It was on the show that they did for St. Patrick's Day.
Listen,
I have questions for a dude who doesn't drink a beer, on St. Patrick's Day. I mean, I'd look at them suspect.
Yeah,
Why aren't you drinking, man, at St. Patrick's Day?
And you notice these are former Fox News employees. Do we know if they are on-air talent? That's very different from the janitor. I'm not saying that one person is better than another, but I'm just saying, like, did the janitor just happen to sweep in the corner and they found this person, or are we talking about one of the hosts sitting on the couch with him,
it's funny.
which we have not seen?
Regardless of what the job position is, you do say something really important here. Anyone who's saying something about Pete Hegseth isn't willing to put their name, their face, their reputation, and their career on the line to make this allegation. And yet, you've got high-profile people who do have, they're on-air personalities. They have a lot to lose.
Absolutely.
If they're lying about this. If you're a Fox News host, your name, reputation, your
paid contributor, all of those folks.
And they're all saying, this is bull. I've never seen anything like this. This is ridiculous. All right, get this one. I love this. Let's turn to the Senate now, because the media is just beclowning themselves on this one. Senator Lindsey Graham on Tuesday.
Okay.
On Tuesday said, well, these allegations are very serious, and I'm going to take them seriously. Of course, they're all anonymous allegations, right? 24 hours later, this is what Lindsey Graham said.
I've known Pete for a long time. I served with him in Afghanistan. The people over there said nothing but great things about him. The allegations against Pete are all anonymous sources. I am not going to make any decision based on an anonymous source.
So now suddenly he got some religion 24 hours later.
Somebody
said,
whispered in his ear,
and said,
be careful, dude.
Exactly. These are anonymous sources. Senator Rick Scott is on board with Pete Hegseth.
Will you support his nomination?
Well, I did have a very long...
I'm so sorry. That is not Rick Scott. This is Rick Scott.
Will you support...
Nope, that's Joni Ernst as well. It's just mislabeled. All right, Joni Ernst said that she is not a yes, and she needs to be impressed. It's interesting. You know who was a yes for Joni Ernst? Lloyd Austin. Lloyd Austin, Joe Biden's nominee, made the Senate vote 95-2. Only Josh Hawley and Senator Mike Lee opposed that nomination.
That tells you a lot. And if my memory is correct, he disappeared.
He went AWOL. Without telling the commander-in-chief and without telling his subordinate, the deputy who was supposed to be in charge of him.
That he was going into surgery, that he was under anesthesia. Excuse me, so he was totally out.
And that was after he engineered the Afghanistan pullout that led to the death of 13 service members that everybody claims was a huge success, by the way. That's the person that gets a stamp of approval from Joni Ernst. But Pete Hegseth, she's on the fence. What's going on over there on Capitol Hill? It's a good question. I think the president deserves his cabinet, don't you?
Call to donate, 888-294-8560.
Roxane Suarez-Ramos, Roxane Suarez-Ramos' son was in the United States Navy. He was stationed at Bremerton, Washington, when during a evening patrol, there was an accident, and he found himself underwater, drowned for upwards to 3 minutes during that patrol and accident. That's when the phone call came in to Ms. Suarez-Ramos, and, well, that's every parent's worst nightmare who has a child in the military, ma'am. And tell us about that moment when you found out what happened to your son, and also how Fisher House became part of that story.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank
Good morning.
you, Valerie and Patrice. I'm honored to speak about this. It's still a pretty emotional, even though this is December 6th, 2024. Sometimes speaking about it and just rehashing it again, it brings the same emotions. But what I must say is that Fisher House has been a blessing to our family. They came to us at a time when I didn't even know they existed. They have become my family, and they have become a very strong resource for all of us. I still have an active son that's in the Navy, my oldest, and we are a very strong military family for about 5 generations. So my hat is off to Fisher House with this, the gratitude that they provided to us, the support that they gave to Ricardo. It is something that I will never forget.
Can you talk to us specifically about, where you stayed, kind of some of the different ways that Fisher House really helped you and your family?
Yes, he was stationed in Washington State, and when all this happened, we stayed at the JBLM Fisher House. The staff there, the ladies there, everybody was just wonderful. They supported us from housing because basically when this happened, as any mother, I received the phone call, I just packed and left. It was basically, we're military ready, so it's a backpack and a purse. But you go there, I did not know what to expect, but once I realized the magnitude, it was one of those things that I kind of said, okay, where am I going to stay? Where am I going to live? They provided housing. The facility is, for me personally, was just like being at home, and they provide you everything from something as simple as shower soap, something as simple as breakfast in the morning, a cup of coffee, a pillow for you to rest your head at night, sheets. I mean, it's just something that it's just like being at home.
Wow.
And we were there for about almost 4 months in recovery time. So you think about, I didn't leave with the intent to be away from my own home for that long, but all of a sudden you're in a situation that you're homeless in the sense of, what am I going to do for 4 months?
Yeah.
Yes.
And Fisher House has been the saving grace for my family.
And Roxane, you mentioned you have another son who is in the Navy, so you raised 2 sailors there, and
absolutely.
and he stayed with you as well, because I got to think, raising 2 boys myself, you know where I'm going with this.
I know where you're going.
Bringing in the brother probably sort of helped with the recovery process, sort of like created a dynamic there.
Yes, it did create a dynamic, and my other son, he's serving proudly, and he's still active duty, and and that was a difficult phone call for him as well. I mean, they're very close, extremely close, and to give that phone call to him from the commanding chief, I said, please give him a call. They happened to know Ricardo down where he was in Texas at the time, my oldest. And it was a phone call that all I remember is my oldest, Cordero, saying to me, Mom, once you assess what's going on, let me know, and I will be there.
Wow.
And he stayed. Fisher House took care of him as well, as he egged on his brother and during his recovery. And could you give us a quick update on your little boy? How's he doing, little boy? I mean, I know he's a big boy.
He's a big guy. He stands over 6 feet. But you know what? He is doing great. He's now he's come back to Virginia, where we originally live now in Chesapeake, Virginia, and he's come back here, and he is now he's still a responder, and he is now a full-time police officer.
Wow.
He just can't help being a hero, can he? That's amazing.
No.
I don't know what you're doing there in Chesapeake, Roxane, but you're raising some pretty good boys. Listen, we got to leave it there, sadly, but I know that your story is going to touch a lot of moms and dads' hearts here.
I hope so.
And I so appreciate it. It touched my heart because my daughter literally is going to report next week to her Navy base, which is about 14 miles away from where your son was. So God bless you, Roxane.
Her.
Yeah,
thank
you.
God bless everyone there, and God bless Fisher House for sure. They have a very, very deep, heartfelt thank you.
Amen to that.
Amen.
And a great way to spread those blessings around is to give a call right now, 888-294-8560. Please donate whatever you can and help out moms like Roxane who need Fisher House right now as we speak. 888-294-8560.
All right, coming up, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have taken Capitol Hill to talk about DOGE. So we'll give you some updates on that, plus more stories from Fisher House. Now, I've got a great update for you. Our latest total giving, $222,158 for Fisher House. Thank you guys so much. It is not, we're going to be giving all morning. Call 888-298-294-8560 or WMAL.com/Fisher House. Keep giving. Stay with us. O'Connor and Company.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington. Supporting our wounded warriors and their families. The Fisher House Radiothon continues on WMAL, a Cumulus station. News now. Now, the WMAL Fisher House Radiothon continues. Please support our wounded warriors and their families by calling in your contribution now. 888-294-8560. That's 888-294-8560.
It's 6:36. It's O'Connor and Company. Yes, please do donate. 888-294-8560. It's the WMAL Fisher House Radiothon. And I'm not going to lie. I think that we should start picking up the pace here with the donations.
We can use some more.
I want to hit that $40,000 match from Jeffrey and Janice in Mount Airy. If you've been thinking about it, you say, yeah, I'll get to it. Well, let's do it in this half hour. Let's do it between now and 7 a.m. so we can really sort of launch into the second half of this show with a nice big number for Fisher House. 888-294-8560. Now, Patrice, at 7:05, we're going to have Kurt Schlichter here.
Oh,
he's a little exercised about the Senate overusing their advising consent authority here on Pete Hegseth. And, of course, Kurt is a retired Army colonel. He has some strong opinions about where the Pentagon needs to go. 7:35, Steve Moore on the DOGE meetings yesterday. And at 8:35, Representative Chip Roy of Texas, who was in the DOGE meetings.
Ooh, yes.
As mentioned, that's Patrice Onwuka. Good morning.
Happy Friday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy Holiday Friday to you.
Happy Fisher House Friday. That's really what it is.
Let's talk about Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Did you see Elon with his little toddler boy on his shoulders?
Loved it. That is Elon 2.0. And he's like, I want a Baron in 18 years, so let me start now.
Yeah.
Let me bring him to all the meetings.
Great observation. I love that. Yeah, the two of them had a meeting with members of the Congress to discuss what they're hoping to achieve through their 18-month program. They're calling it DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. It, of course, only has advisory power, but it's going to work.
They make recommendations.
That's right. They're going to take a look at how things are run in the government right now, find areas where we can improve efficiency and maybe cut a lot of the redundancy and things like that.
Money, budgets, yes.
Make those recommendations to the Office of Management and Budget, and, of course, the incoming OMB director, Russ Vought, has already said, yeah, let's go. I'm ready. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
So Congressman Tim Burchett, Republican, recorded on his phone his thoughts as he was walking down the corridor after this meeting.
Okay.
He told us where things stand here, and I think that it's pretty awesome because he sort of nails it.
Hey, everybody, Tim Burchett, just leaving the DOGE meeting with Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy. And I think the key to the whole thing is going to be, the key to the whole thing is in that room. If Congress doesn't have the guts to do those things that they're talking real big about, it's just a waste of time. They'll do away with executive orders and unelected bureaucrats who put rules and regulations on us. But if Congress doesn't have the guts And that's what scares me. I vote against a lot of stuff. There'll be 15 or so red dots on the board, which means we voted against horrible spending. And there'll be about 400 green lights on the board. And that's going to be the problem. My friend Chip Roy right here.
Chip,
how are you?
East Tennessee.
Great Americans?
I was just telling them that the problem's in that room.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, 100%, and that we've got to have the guts to pull the trigger.
Yeah, our friends Elon and Vivek can do a good job exposing it, but then we got to actually do our jobs. So I hope they do it, and then we'll have to hold our colleagues accountable.
Right on.
Brother.
Amen. Thank y'all.
I do like celebrity cameos there, and Chip
so
Roy,
cool.
Congressman in Texas, will be joining us at 8:35. But that really is the crux of it. It's like everybody sits around and they hem and haw, and they say, yes, there's too much redundancy, there's too much spending, there's too much inefficiency, we're spending too much on all of these programs. And then when it turns out that by putting your money where your mouth is, or actually taking away the money that you're spending on these things where your mouth is, and you have to cut that program, it affects your district.
That's what it is.
It affects those people who are, funding your campaigns.
That's right.
Then suddenly you're not for it. And so the problem are the 535 members of Congress. If they want to fix it, they're the ones who can fix it. The question is, will they?
Well, let's even forget the left at this point. I mean, I think only maybe a couple of Democratic lawmakers have said that they're interested in being part of it. The rest are already coming out. We have AOC. She's against any cuts to welfare programs or spending around that. So you're going to have everybody who's going to come out of the woodworks. But really, the point is, do we have enough Republicans to actually hold the line? And that is where
because with these majorities,
concern is.
you need all of them.
You're going to need every Republican vote on every one of these cuts.
Yep.
I mean, listen, there's some low-hanging fruit, which I love. The Wall Street Journal has a great piece, 6 ways that DOGE can make 6 big ideas for DOGE, one of which is ending daylight savings. I'm on board for that. Let's get rid of daylight saving time. We'll just have one time. We don't have to go back and forth and have our circadian rhythms disrupted. But it's going to get touchy when it comes to the federal workforce, which in this area employs a lot of people. And there are a lot of organizations and companies that depend on the federal workforce. So cutting some folks out and then also ending remote work, which actually could balance a little bit of that, right? Because if federal workers have to come back in, and I know remote work is great, but if federal workers have to all come back in, then a lot of the cafes that feed those folks, the restaurants, the coffee shops, the dry cleaners, suddenly those will get a boost, which is why D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is on board with that.
Rand Paul was on Fox News talking about this, and it's funny, Martha McCallum said, well, Joe Scarborough raised some very grave concerns about this. And, I think Senator Paul had a good point. Can we make sure that we're... Oh, nope, sorry. There it is. Okay.
Has already spent 80% of its budget on Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, vets, defense, and interest on the debt. This is a scam unless they're going to slash Social Security and Medicare and and Veterans Affairs. They're never going to get to $2 trillion.
Can't be done. Can't be done, Senator. What do you say?
Oh, poor Joe Scarborough. I remember when he was a conservative. When he was a conservative Republican, he actually voted against expanding Medicare into Medicare Part D, this extra part to make Medicare bigger because he thought it might bankrupt the country. Yep. So there was a time when he actually was a thoughtful person, but no longer. Now, there is a sliver of a truth in the sense that, yes, entitlements are a lot of the spending, but to say entitlements are a lot of the spending, therefore we're not going to look at waste, is the excuse we hear all the time.
Exactly.
We're not going to look at this spending because if you get rid of all waste, it won't balance the budget. Well, why don't we start by getting rid of the $750,000 that was spent feeding cocaine to Japanese quail to see if they were more sexually promiscuous on cocaine.
There you go. That's all you need to say.
That's even more asinine than some of the other pet projects I've heard, or research projects.
This isn't real, and it's not going to do anything unless you cut entitlements and cut military spending, and you're not going to do that, so don't do anything. And Rand Paul's like, yeah, okay, you have a point, but could we stop spending money on feeding cocaine to Japanese quail to see if it makes them more promiscuous?
Yeah.
Can we at least do that? Can we? Apparently we can't. Coming up at 7:35. 8:35, we'll speak with Steve more about this, and then at 8:35, Congressman Chip Roy. Right now, it is 6:44.
You're listening to the WMAL Fisher House Radiothon. Call to donate, 888-294-8560.
And as we've been talking about these Fisher House stories from these great American individuals who have been affected by Fisher House, we often talk about people getting wounded in combat. We talk about people who get wounded during a training exercise, which is incredibly dangerous. This is dangerous work these people do.
Yes.
We also talk about some of our veterans who have reached a certain age and they require medical assistance. But as Fisher House likes to say, life happens. And just because you're in the military doesn't mean that a life is not going to affect you. And that brings us to our next guest, Heather Campbell. She is a military spouse, and God bless you, Heather, for having to, deal with the ordeal of being married to someone in the military. You were stationed in Alaska, and your little 9-year-old son needed surgery. And if you're in Alaska, your options are limited. So tell us how Fisher House helped you get down to the lower 48 so that your son could get the care he needs.
Yeah, thank you. It was such a crazy time. My son got a cold, like kids do. And in Alaska, our cold season's a little bit longer given the winter. And he ended up getting admitted and needing just a higher level of intervention than we've ever needed. And through a series of follow-ups and visits and specialists, we found out that some of his long-lasting issues were actually a narrowing in his airway, and it was below his voice box, right? So you can't balloon that or really intervene on that in the facilities that we had available in the state of Alaska. Now, where we were was about 100 miles from the Arctic Circle. So, not in Anchorage, where there's Target and city. Yeah. We were, out in the Alaskan bush. And so it was just a huge thing of, okay, wait, now we have to fly somewhere that they have a pediatric ICU. In case he has complications, we need to have a high level of intervention available, in facility. And this was while we were preparing to move back to the lower 48. My husband was finishing a leadership tour. There was just a lot of things. I have 3 kids, right? So this is only one of the 3. It's the end of the year. It was just a really crazy time. And I actually was trying to coordinate surgery from out of town. I was in D.C. for a work trip and went to an event with Fisher House. And I knew colleagues who worked there, and I knew about the houses, right, the Fisher houses that you could stay in. But we didn't have one of those where we were going. So I hadn't really thought about it. And as I'm there listening to this presentation from the Fisher House team, they're telling me about, hero hotels and hero miles. And after the presentation, I said, hey, thanks so much. I love what you guys do. Please let me know how I can help. Here's my expertise. Also, question, can you tell me more about how I can get this? Actually, I have surgery coming up. And as it turns out, they were able to get, our military medical trip was covered for my spouse and for my son. So they were covered, but Fisher House was able to get my other 2 children and myself there. So both parents could be there for surgery. We were able to bring brother and sister. And with the resources that we saved in doing that, we actually flew my mom out to the facility. We were in Washington State. And so my mom helped with brother and sister at the hotel while we were able to stay the whole day at surgery. So not only could we be there, but we were both able to be at the hospital because we were able to bring in my mom to help.
Absolutely phenomenal.
The impact of having them there, having brother and sister there, my kids are all very close in age, and it just it can't be overstated what it did for our family to have us all together.
So if for somebody, listen, the economy has been rough, and we recognize that people are struggling. If they don't have any spare money that they can donate to Fisher House Foundation, they could just look and see if they've got extra miles, airline miles, hotel miles. You can donate those and be a part of helping somebody like Heather and her 9-year-old son and the entire Campbell family. Heather, thank you so much for your service as a military spouse and mom. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That's Heather Campbell's story. I'd love for you to do whatever you can. And yes, if you've got $10, it gets doubled right now thanks to this great matching gift up to $40,000. So give us a call, please. 888-294-8560. It's 6:53.